see my
Yep.
okay. Okay, so hello, my name is Quinn Connell. I'm with Great Western Recreation. We're an exclusive distributor of Game Time playground equipment. And with Great Western Recreation, we do turnkey playground projects, everything from the design, site preparation, installation, safety surfacing, and we supply pretty much anything you can see in a park playground setting, from side amenities, dog parks, splash pads, shelters, kind of you name it, we do it. And this, and I've been lucky enough to do a few projects with the Ferndale School District already, and we have another one starting hopefully next week or the week after. And Tracy reached out to me, for this specific project for Mountain View, the Inclusive Playground, and we have put together a design. But today I'm just going to kind of go through excuse me, the history of inclusive innovation, and what it means to Game Time, redefining inclusion, research and outreach, national demonstration sites, inclusive products, and the Mountain View design. So if you have any questions along the way, please let me know.
Inclusive play isn't just a part of what we do, it's in our DNA. More than 40 years ago, Game Time revolutionized accessible play, introducing the world's first ramped composite play structure. And since that groundbreaking moment, Game Time has pioneered inclusive play products, leveraged best practice research, and developed partnerships to lead the way in inclusive play. Our history of developing inclusive play products is marked by a series of industry firsts, including the first inclusive climber and the first panels and activities that featured adaptive switch technology. We introduced the first adaptive swing seat and the first adaptive face-to-face swing. We created the first inclusive playground net and the first accessible playground tower. These products, and dozens like them, are rooted in research. The same research that guides our design philosophy when it comes to creating inclusive playgrounds. We partner with Playcorps and their Scholar Network to apply best practices, like the 7 principles of inclusive playground design. These principles ensure a playground addresses the needs of the whole child, the whole environment, and the whole community. And partnership is key to continued innovation. We work with organizations like Inclusive Play UK to bring accessible worlds, spinners, and interactive games to playgrounds around the world. We're working with the Ability Center to transform entire parks into universally accessible destinations. And we're always looking for new and exciting ways to make play possible for everyone. We believe everyone has the right to play, regardless of age or ability. This has been our guiding principle since 1929. Because play is where we belong.
So a little history of inclusive innovation. Game Time, like I said in the video, is our pioneers and leaders in inclusive play. Game Time invented the first accessible composite play structures back in 1989. And since then, they introduced the first double wide ramps, set the standard for adaptive swing seats, designed the first universally accessible custom playground. In 2015, debuted the first inclusive sensory playground climber. 2021, the GT Wave is the industry's first inclusive playground net. And then recently we launched the Aventus Tower, which is an accessible playground tower. So as you can see, Game Time keeps up with this ASTM, CPSC standards, but it continues to move the dial on what inclusivity and accessibility means. So redefining inclusion, equity over equality. When we look at, designing a playground, we look at equity. How are all the children on the playground going to get a fair chance at play? And using the equipment, like their peers, even though they might not be able to do the same thing. Do we have a piece that is similar? Do we have an overbody ladder, that's for an older child, an able-bodied child, and then a 2 to 5, someone in a mobility device who would use that same structure to get that same that play value. This is always a good point to touch on, is that, you know, people throw around ADA, you know, like, oh, playground needs to be ADA. Well, all public playgrounds need to be ADA compliant. But then we start moving the needle for inclusion. Inclusion moves past accessibility to equity. It creates spaces for people of all ages, abilities, social status, and cultural backgrounds. And equity, you know, and inclusivity, you know, it depends on, very much depends on, you know, budget, size, space. But what I'm going to share with you today is that we have designed a fully inclusive, universally inclusive playground for Mountain View. How do we do that? It's with research and outreach. There is an arm under the PlayCore umbrella called CORE, which is the Center for Outreach, Research, and Development. CORE serves as the educational arm and service arm for PlayCore. All they do, they have zero equipment, manufacturers, anything. They just partner with scholars and experts in their fields to turn research into practice, whether that be inclusivity, physical education for children, adult fitness, dog parks, pathways for play, whatever it is. This arm just focuses on turning research into practice. Let's see. So specifically for the design for Mountain View, we have started with the research, and we have used the 7 principles of inclusive playground design. We have partnered with Utah State University Centers with Persons with Disabilities to reach out to them as our scholarly partner to say, hey, you know, what should be on an inclusive playground, right? We know equipment, we know slides and swings and all this stuff, but, you know, what does an inclusive playground mean? And at Utah State University, we actually have a lab, which is a full playground where professors, scholars, students can watch children at play, able-bodied children, children with a disability, multiple disabilities, and they can see how they play and interact. You know, and that's where, you know, and then when we look at, you know, designs, whether it's an inclusive design or, you know, whatever design, we can say, oh, one thing that we've seen in our research is that the higher the structure is, the more the children will communicate and collaborate. So we find all these different findings, whether they, you know, translate to an inclusive playground or to a specific project. It's, you know, we find all these different things about how children and caregivers interact on a playground. But for the inclusive playground, we want to look at, you know, being fair, included, smart, independent, safe, active, and comfortable. It's also interesting to see when we think of an inclusive playground, right away, I think most people's heads go to a ramp. Well, that's part of it, but if you look at who are the children with disabilities, it's 67 out of 1,000 have intellectual, 27 have communicative, social emotional, health related, multiple disabilities, sensory disabilities. So out of all these children who are going to go to the playground, maybe one might be using a mobility device, but do we have a playground set up for children with cochlear implants, with braille, with, you know, tactile and different sensory? Like, so we think about all of these things when we, you know, put our research into practice. So just again, we look at the whole child, you know, physical, social, emotional, sensory, cognitive, you know, communication. All of this goes into the design for an inclusive playground, which is we have the whole best practice key. So for the Mountain View, I will put together a whole spreadsheet of, you know, do we hit all of these elements, from accessible routes, music and sound, opportunities for expressive and receptive language, dramatic play elements, looping patterns, jump-in points, cozy spots, you know, so on and so forth. You know, have we hit all of these elements, which we have, for an inclusive playground? You know, inclusive space for all should be playful, inclusive destination, nationally recognized for their best practice in design. And then we'll get into kind of the national demonstration piece of it here in a minute. But we're going to go into the design. So here's the design thus far. You know, taking some feedback from, what the space needed. We have full sensory ramped panels. And our goal when we're designing an inclusive playground is children in mobility devices and caregivers in mobility devices go up and down ramped systems all day long. Going up and down a ramp at a playground is not that exciting. But once they get up to the ramp, what can they do? Can they do a full turn and can they access this rock and raft, which is they stay in the mobility device and it's going to sway? Can they exit their mobility device and do an upper body climber? Or can they keep going on and there's going to be more sensory and half panels? And at every turn, is there something for them to do? So specifically, you see here, we have an inclusive seesaw. We have our inclusive whirl, which someone in a mobility device can access directly on their mobility device. They don't need to exit the mobility device to use this feature. These are close-up of the sensory panel. So this is something that can be music related, tactile. These are going to be very sensory heavy pieces that you would be able to pick out the different sensors for this ramp. But what's kind of nice is that it's not just a ramp. It's also functionable. It has play value for the children. And this gives them a closer of the rock and raft, where again, someone in a mobility device can enter this and it's going to give that swaying back and forth. Here's more. We've included a roller slide, again for sensory, tactile. We have a small crawl tube. We've added a little bit of balancing here. And what I'm really hoping to show, here's more panels. We've included a disc swing and 2 adaptive swings. Disc swings are great if maybe a child has, muscular dystrophy or some stiffness in their joints and they're unable to get into a swing. They're able to more comfortably get into a disc swing and still get that to-fro motion. Something else that I want to point out is that for our slides, we have a transfer platform. So a lot of times for slides, a child has to get all the way down to the deck and then go down the slide. Well, someone in a mobility device, that's very challenging to have to crawl all the way out of the mobility device onto the deck, where it gives you a transfer platform that's about 2 feet up. So someone in a mobility device can slide right onto that transfer platform and down the slide. We've also included a poured in place material. So you have a unitary surface. And we tried to do a little bit of a design, maybe a little bit of a river design, so it gives more of imaginative play. So I said that we focused on designing this around the 7 principles of inclusive design, which means that we've designed this around a national demonstration site. So now you probably won't have a lot of visitors to the site because it's going to be closed off and fully gated. But we will send data before the playground is in place, just as we can collect data from really cell phone data of saying what's the physical activities going on, spend, so on and so forth, to show kind of what's going on around the area. Then we'll send you a report 60 days post opening to say, hey, here's the vitality report of what this new playground has brought to your community. And then if we were to reach 50 scans, we put up a sign at the playground with a QR code that we ask park goers to scan that code, and they can, excuse me, give their demographics of how far they traveled, how many people in their party, any feedback on the playground. And what that does for you is it's just actual real-time data for you. It's not just saying, oh, we put in this very expensive playground, kids are on it, so it must be, useful. It must be busy. People must like it. We can actually give you data that says, hey, here's the impact on this grant spend on this playground for your community. And here is what it has done. If you see this this park right here, this is Beatty Park in Lompoc, California. And it was their first inclusive playground for the city. and we did a national demonstration site, and we did all these reports, and they hit 50 scans, and we sent them a report. And from that data, they're since implementing 2 other inclusive playgrounds because of the feedback and the community, and what it brought to the community was so, I think, mind blowing. They didn't realize what could come of this just from these data reports. So it just says, hey, we're doing this very large, expensive project, and here's why, and here's the feedback, and this is the why to what we have done. Also within that National Demonstration Site Network, we have trainers that lead CEUs, different informational sessions, great, seminars just to learn more on inclusion, especially as we see, some of these slides could even be outdated since, we posted them, because it's an ongoing, research and development of like figuring, we're learning more and more about inclusion and what's, best practices for a playground. And that, keeps changing. Safety standards for playgrounds keep changing, inclusion standards for playground keep changing. And so, that's why we work with CORE, is because they're the ones that are constantly staying up to date on what's going on. Couple inclusive products that, we put in your playground, this inclusive whirl. We actually just put one in Central right now, and we've done a bunch in the state of Washington, and they're you can see how many kids can sit on one, and that doesn't even show a child in a mobility device, but it just gets a lot of children to interact and be in one piece of equipment. The sensory wave climber, like we mentioned. So we don't have this climber, but we do have the sensors on your playground. So you can see this is color. She's going to spin it and different colors show up. Adaptive switch compatible. Front reach makes it easy for everyone to get to it. A few other pieces, inclusive pieces. Different signs we can put on. Communication boards that we've already put in Mountain View. Just different elements for inclusion that we've done on other playgrounds. And then, we're part of KCDA for this contract. And that's it. Any questions?
Quinn, can you hear us?
I can.
Oh, thank you. That was so exciting to see. Yeah. What questions or comments or wonders does anyone have?
I think all the elements were really exciting to see, and I didn't know they existed. So yeah, thank you for going through all of the different elements and how they support the different needs of our students.
Absolutely. I mean, and I'm here to, this is, just working, with your team already of this is what we've come up with. But if you, come with specific needs or wants or questions, I mean, we're able to adapt, different things into the playground that you're like, oh, we're really, missing this within our school, or, we need tot seats, whatever it might be, we're happy to change, or if it's colors, or you wanted more freestanding panels, or, kind of whatever it is, we're happy to make adjustments to this design. So this is not necessarily the end all be all. We would love feedback also.
Hey Quinn, I'm Kathy. I'm a physical therapist with the district, and I'm just wondering, on the swings that you have set up, what's the height off the ground for those, and how does the ones that are more the typical sitting swing, does that whole yellow part swing up before you put the child in, and does that stay up very well? And is it kind of what height off the ground in terms of ease of transferability for?
Yeah. So minimum 12 inches. This height is going to be, it's an 8-foot rail. I believe this is 7 feet. And so we set standards of minimum standards, but we're also able to change the chain height. So if you have, you know, if we're looking at little, you know, 2 to 5-year-olds or whatever your age demographic is, we can set the minimum, or if you wanted them higher, we can look at that also. So we do have minimum standards for the chain heights for the adaptive swings and the disc swing. This piece right here, yes, it is a fully molded plastic piece that will swing overhead and then come back down and latch.
And then the disc swing, and how far off the ground is that typically?
12 inches. Minimum. So we can do it higher. Lower, it starts to get a little too low, but we can, you know, play with the heights of the swings to accommodate your users.
Thank you.
We also have, for the adaptive swing, we do have kind of a larger molded seat with fabric straps. So it's kind of a preference for, you know, the teachers and the caregivers for what you want. We find these ones with the plastic harness tend to last just a little longer than the fabric straps.
Do you have, is all, like, all of the elements, are they on, your websites if we wanted to look through?
Yeah. Yes. They're all on our website, though our website is not the most user friendly. So if you were, you know, you kind of, you know, you can look through inclusive elements. I mean, I'm happy to send all of these pictures so you can see and pull, you know, send Tracy some specifics that we have on here so you could see. But yeah, if you go to the Game Time website, you can look at inclusion, and if you see something like, oh, is this on the playground, or, you know, this is very unique that, you know, because, you know, see our, you know, our students needing, we're happy to incorporate.
I think the slide that had the elements, I think they were small listed, and then you mentioned that they were all perhaps in the design that we have. I think that was really, I think that's what you're referring
oh.
to.
Go back.
Oh, this?
That's fascinating and exciting to me.
Okay. So what I will do is and I actually might have it made and I just didn't add it to this, is I have a whole, give me a second here. Let me, I'm going to walk you through something else also here in a minute. I have, let me see if I can find, I'll show you what it looks like, and I'll make sure that it's made up. For Mountain View, so you can see specifically, let me see if I can find it real fast for you. We have a full checklist that will be site specific for your playground. Let me see if I can pull one up so you can see what it looks like. That I'd be happy to share. Give me 1 second, it's thinking. All right, give me a second. I'm looking for it. But yeah, I can send you this the whole breakdown of what is included, you know, accessible and safety servicing, port and place, music and sound. It'll say, you know, bongos, this, that, shade. Here's where the half activity panel is. Here's the cozy spot, and we will give site specifics specifically for your playground.
That would be fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other
When-
questions?
oh,
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
sorry. This is Wendy. I work with Bird to Three, actually early intervention program, and I'm just curious, the cozy spots, are those going to be places that maybe children that are getting overstimulated can go to kind of reset?
Exactly. So I'm glad you brought that up. So we have a couple kind of unique for, you know, inclusion, but we have either jump in points where this is going to be for a child who, you know, there's a seat that they can watch their peers play, and once they feel comfortable, can jump in. Cozy spots, exactly. It's for children who want to be on the playground, but not necessarily swinging from the rafters. they want to read a book, they have sensory overload, they need to go, into this, sometimes we have a little tunnel or something, they need to go into the space and decompress and get some sensory relief. So yeah, so that's exactly what a cozy spot is.
Can you speak a little bit about the accessible seesaw, the seats? Is that really slippery material or does it have some texture or something to make it a little less likely that our kids with more balance issues and stuff might be able to stay on there a little bit easier? It looks kind of like from just the picture.
They could. This is our inclusive seesaw that we do have. I'm actually going to walk you guys through this. Can you guys all still see my screen okay? So this is our inclusive seesaw. We do have another model that we could also look at implementing that has more of the molded seats that are easier for children to get in and out of. Also add a little more security to them. Well, we do consider this as our inclusive seesaw. We do have one that is even more inclusive than this. Let me go. So here's the sensory wave ramp. So what I'm walking you through right now, this is our sketch fab. A hand cycler. See. An over body ladder. Just a fun butterfly for theming and imaginative play, talk tubes, climber. See here, you can see our transfer platform for children to get up for a little more ease and to get onto the slide. Crawl tube. Panel. Roller slide. Drum panel. Again, some of the panels we can like switch out of, there's none of this is just set in stone. The Rock With Me. Shadow play. Canopy. Our inclusive whirl. And the swings. And I think that's it.
That's really exciting.
It's kind of fun to be able to like walk through it a little bit because sometimes you see, you see these and you're like, oh yeah, that looks great. But once you kind of walk through it, you're like, okay, I get it a little more and I can see some of the elements. And then you're able to say, oh, can we, maybe change it out for this or that or whatever it is.
I have a question. Are some of the panels, it look like some of them are electronic? Is that is that not true? It just
Nope.
looked like.
They look like it. Currently, none of them are electronic, though we can always make changes. If that is something that, like we said, the adaptive, if that's something you are interested in, we can add the adaptive sensors. Currently, none of them are electronic. It's all going to be, touch, feel, sound, sensory, music, stuff like that.
Other questions or comments? One of the things that you mentioned is that it would be fully fenced and closed off. We are planning to have it open to the community though.
Okay, that's fine. Yep, we are right now we have in our design, it doesn't show in our renderings. Fully fenced. I believe we have 2 self-latching crash bars, but yeah, it would be up to you if you wanted to lock the gates or not.
The balance, like tree looking thing or twig looking thing for balance, what's the material for that?
For these,
Yeah,
so these are GFRC, which is a concrete So the little toadstools and the wishbone log, they're a GFRC, so it's a heavy concrete material.
I should probably know this, what's the overall kind of dimension of the whole playground?
That's a good question. I want to say it was around 6,000 square feet. I believe. Give me a second here. Uh, 7,400 square feet right now. Yep.
This is probably a silly question, but I'm assuming that these playgrounds that are created meet all the state licensing wax and all of that kind of stuff, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep. So we, I've worked very closely with the Whatcom County Health Department, making sure that they get all of their required material, whether it's footing layouts. We use a Game Time certified installer. All of our equipment is IPMA certified, so it comes off the Game Time manufacturing site, which is in Fort Payne, Alabama. IPMA certified warranty. We have various warranties for all of our equipment. Uprights, lifetime limited warranty, slides, 15 years, and then the various moving parts, different warranties. But yeah, so, I've worked with the health department in Whatcom on a number of projects. So, happy to give them all material that they need and kind of know the process now to make sure that everything gets licensed and is compliant.
What does the maintenance for this kind of structure look like in, 5-year, 10-year, 30-year down the road kind of thing?
Yeah, you see some Game Time structures. I just saw a few that were put in the 90s and still look pretty good. The decks, the old way we used to do vinyl decks, the deck coating's coming off, but they're still in pretty good shape. Warranty, you're not going to get it. Why it will be open to the community. You're not going to get probably as much coming and going as usual. We would recommend, maybe taking the fabric shade off during the winter months. Not necessary, but it would just prolong the life of the fabric. The poured in place material, we recommend doing what's called a roll coat every couple of years. Do any of our customers do it? No, but we recommend it. I think maybe 5% of our customers actually do it, but it's either something that we can, send a quote for, or the school district. It's literally just using roller paint brushes and rolling on this polyurethane binder. That just helps keep the poured in place together from cracking. But overall, there's not a whole lot of maintenance. But how the maintenance process would work is, say we put this playground in the spring, and 1, 2, 5 years later, you reach out to me, Great Western office. We have a full team of order entry, customer service, all of these different people, playground or project managers. And you reach out to us and say, hey, we have a crack in this, we don't know why. You send a picture. We do our best to get everything covered under warranty from a parts standpoint. Now for installation, maybe the district can help with that, or, we could get a quote for installation, but for the most part, we try to get as much covered under warranty as we can. Not a lot of maintenance. All of our systems come what's called direct bolt, as you can see here. Game Time actually invented the direct bolt system. So a lot of times you'll see these clamps around that hold all the panels and pieces together. Well, Game Time has a direct bolt system. So what does that mean? One, we can't install on anything more than a 2% slope. So our installers are very prone to making sure that we have a very flat surface. 2, it means the entire playground needs to be put together in, one go, because we can't be field adjusting. Everything leaves the Game Time manufacturing plant, like I said, IPMA certified, which means it is all ready to go. So this is a direct bolt system, so it's tamper proof. No one can get into this. Every now and again, very rare, one will kind of come loose because of the hardware. But all of our installers have kits that'll just go up and kind of tighten it, but that's few and far between. So you're dealing with a lot less pieces and parts. Overall, your playground doesn't have a lot of movable parts. Some of these little pieces, might move, might get damaged, but I've never actually had to replace a sensor, to be honest with you. The rock and raft, the more you use it, the more it starts to sway, but again, no maintenance there. Overall, I mean, they're pretty, you will get, maybe a little bit of vandalism. You might need new swing chains down the road, but overall there's not a whole lot of maintenance, on the playgrounds.
And what's the accessibility or the ease with taking that sunshade off?
We have, I need to make sure that I did it in this one. We have quick release, so a couple tall ladders and it comes down pretty easily.
So is there, as part of the paperwork or the turnover after it's constructed, does somebody go through with the maintenance staff and show them how to remove and reinstall the sunshade? What
Yeah.
needs indicated or because I'm assuming that you've got a lot of stuff that's moving. So I would think there would have to be some kind of lubrication or greasing of with all the rain and bad weather we get.
Yeah. I mean, we install Game Time playgrounds and these sunshades nationwide. So whether it's Montana, Wyoming, New York, Florida on the coast, so these playgrounds see all types of weather. So they're coded. We've been installing Game Time playgrounds in Washington State for 30+ years right now. If you want to go see one near you guys that has a sunshade, we did one over for Whatcom YMCA over in the Barkley district. You can kind of see peer over the fence and kind of see what we did over there and the support in place and stuff like that. We've done playgrounds for Bellingham, City of Bellingham. So we've done quite a few playgrounds. City of Linden's going to be getting a new Game Time playground. So our playgrounds are really made for the elements. But yeah, so what we would do is we would do a final walkthrough with the installer, myself, and we would just make sure that, everything is done satisfactory. We check off all of the pieces and parts, make sure everything, it looks clean, any concrete or extra splatters of port in place were cleaned up, and then walk through how to release the shade.
I have a question. One of the things that we talked about in our previous meeting was building this, wonderful accessible playground, and then the possibility that we don't have it accessible like to the parking lot and things like that. Do you ever help sites with the accessibility beyond the playground?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, part of looking at the inclusion is that we could do a fuller picture of, looking at ADA stalls. Is there, a restroom, all of these, pieces of parts that might not necessarily fit your scope or your need, but we can say, hey, here's our recommendation for a fully inclusive park. And you can take with it, and do with what you will. I know we have local contractors in Bellingham who can help, my installer, but yeah, we can definitely say, hey, when you're building an inclusive playground, here are the ancillary items to look at. Walkways, ADA ramps to get onto sidewalks, parking spots, all that stuff. We can definitely help look at.
Great, thank you. I know we've taken up, your time and we appreciate it so much. I'll just, open for any final comments or questions. And, this has been really great to see the detail as well as kind of the history. So thank you.
My pleasure. I love doing this, building playgrounds, and especially for, inclusivity. I was at a school recently where, they had wood fiber and they had kids and mobility devices, and those kids sat on the sidelines and watched their peers play. And so to, be able to give a playground where, once you see a kid in a mobility device or see a kid with, cochlear implants or whatever, they can access a playground. It's just, it's really the most rewarding feeling. So I'm, very happy to, be invited to do this presentation. So thank you for having me tonight. And if you ever have any questions or need any additional information, I'd be happy to provide it.
Thank you. Do we have any final questions? Kathy, I think you had
The
one.
other question is just about the spinner. Is that like, does it have a limit on how fast it can go, or like a lockdown
And safety.
area? Like if you're gonna bring a wheelchair on there, that it wouldn't go so fast that the wheelchair would.
You can't, yeah, no, you can't get it to go that fast for someone in a wheelchair to fly off.
In the 70s, there was, kids being spit off those spinners, so.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh no, we sell some spinners that you can really get them going, and they're a lot of fun, but this is not one of them. This is a safe but fun spinner.
Right, and any worries about hitting like rocks in there that jam it up, or?
No, so for maintenance on this, we actually in the last year we we would walk through this again with Central on this one, but no, we do it so tight that you really can't jam anything into it. It is something to keep in mind to just keep an eye to make sure there's debris out of it. But like I said, we build a whole base at game time and then bring it and then just set it in place. So our installers used to have to piece it together, and now it's all prefabricated at game time, and then we just set it into the concrete setting. But no, I mean, you can't even put a fingernail in there, but it is something to keep in mind because kids will try to jam stuff in there just to keep the debris out of it.
Thank you. What's the typical amount of time from start to finish playground installation of this nature? I'm sure it varies a lot depending on the initial site, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna guess this is probably a 2-month install, mainly because of the site preparation. So we're looking at doing it on the asphalt, which means we're gonna have to remove a lot of the asphalt, level grade, re-pour, install the equipment, which there's not a whole lot of equipment. So that's actually the fastest part is the equipment. Once we set our footings and do the layout, the equipment's the fastest part, but it's gonna be the site preparation of excavating and removing the asphalt, installing the equipment, pouring the concrete sub base for the poured in place. The gate, I mean, that'll all go up fairly simple. And then the poured in place, if we do a design like this, it's going to be probably about a week installation, maybe a little less. And then we say a week cure time. And that is just based on whether temps are 40 degrees or 90 degrees. We just say a week. Now, if this is going in July, probably 72 hours and you're good to go on it.
that's great. Thank you. Thank you, Quinn. If we have other questions, we'll route those through Tracy to you, and we really appreciate your time and preparation for tonight. It's really informative.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.